y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name is Carrie. This is where I talk about knitting, my tips, my tricks, my opinions, and my preferences. And yes, I have another knit tea to discuss Ravelry. Ravelry has made some changes, and they did do a blog post to address some of the issues. So I thought, you know what, to be fair to Ravelry, but also to discuss that blog post, I felt like I needed to do another video. If you're interested to find out all about what's going on with Ravelry and their accessibility issues, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell, and let's share some knit tea. If you haven't already watched my first video about this, I will have a link up here for it and down in the description box. You might want to check that out to understand everything that I'm talking about. But to summarize very quickly, Ravelry has updated its look. They are updating the entire site in terms of design features, just kind of internal infrastructure stuff. And they have started by rolling out the new look of Ravelry, or as it's starting to be called, NURAV. This rollout has been controversial and not for the usual reasons. Websites updating their look is usually controversial. Usually it's just people disagreeing on whether they like it or they don't like it. No, this has gone beyond the usual arguments over aesthetics. The new look of Ravelry has caused some people to have migraines, vertigo, and seizures. I don't believe, based on what I've read online, and this is all anecdotal, that NURAV triggering seizures is common. Migraines, vertigo, eye strain has been much more commonly reported. So there are things that Ravelry has done to address some of the accessibility issues. I think the main ones has been turning off the animations and providing a toggle to classic Ravelry, even though I have seen complaints from users who've had problems with NURAV about toggling into classic. The two biggest complaints that I see is one, still needing to go through NURAV in order to toggle into classic Rav. The other complaint that I've seen is that toggling into classic Rav doesn't bring back classic Ravelry. What it brings back is the skin. And I don't understand all of this by any stretch of the imagination. But apparently simply switching the skin of NURAV into classic Rav isn't fixing the accessibility issue for some people. What I really want to get into, though, is this blog post from Ravelry addressing their accessibility issues, because I think that even though they have done some things to tweak NURAV to make it more accessible, I feel like this blog post really speaks to a problematic stance that the owners of Ravelry have taken vis-a-vis accessibility, and shows a certain amount of ableism. So I'm going to read you some quotes. Let me just get into this a little bit. So, first paragraph. When it comes to Ravelry's readability, we know the increase in contrast and white space and the change of color palette has been an improvement for some while being a degradation for others. Boy, that sentence. I think right off the bat, that sentence sets a really bad tone in terms of addressing people in the Ravelry community who have accessibility problems with the site. I think that describing the experience that users are having with eye strain, migraine, vertigo, and yes, some reports of seizures as a degradation in usability is minimizing. Like, this is not a degradation. Like, as if, I'm sorry, your experience isn't as enjoyable as it once was. No, this isn't about enjoying looking at Ravelry. This is about people's physical well-being. Let's say you're allergic to peanuts and you go to a restaurant and you've always really enjoyed that restaurant because they've always done a really good job of labeling everything as having nut or being nut-free. So this is just a very accessible restaurant for you to go to because you know, as someone with a nut allergy, that you are safe. And then you go to the restaurant and they've totally changed their menu, and now there's no warnings about what dishes have nuts and what dishes don't have nuts. That's not a degradation of your experience as that restaurant goer. That's now the restaurant telling you, you're not as important to us as you used to be. And the majority of people in the restaurant may not care because they don't have a nut allergy. But for the person who has a nut allergy, who now doesn't feel as welcome into that restaurant, that is more than a degradation of the experience. So I think that that sentence is very problematic. I think it was very minimizing to what people's experience has been. And I can see why, if I were somebody who was suffering from migraines by being on this site and I read that sentence, I would not be happy. I would not be happy at all. For those of you who are having issues with the new Ravelry design, we're truly sorry that aspects of the site are not usable for you. Aspects of the site being the entire site. Your experience on Ravelry matters so much to us, and we're working hard to make our site work as well as possible for all of you. I mean, I'm not going to take away from the fact that Ravelry has done some things to fix the accessibility issues. But there are other things that they have done that have minimized the accessibility issues. This blog post, I think, is one of them. I think the fact that they have shut down forums for people to talk about the accessibility issues, they have shut them down, they have locked them down, they have deleted comments. Ravelry put up an Instagram post to discuss the accessibility issues, and they closed comments on them. And I want to read their rationale behind shutting off those comments. Comments for this post are closed as our team is unable to moderate, but we have lots of contact options listed in the post. Thank you for understanding. I kind of don't buy that explanation for shutting off comments on Instagram. I mean, maybe it's true. I'm not saying they're lying per se. They might legitimately be going, no, we won't be able to moderate this and we can't on this forum. We don't have the time. So we're not going to have comments here. I think the problem is what that communicates to people who are having issues with Ravelry, and especially people who are having accessibility issues with Ravelry, which is, we can't communicate with you through Ravelry, the website, because it's causing us problems. We could communicate with you through Instagram, but you've shut that off to us. It doesn't seem like a good PR move. I think this sentence to me was the sentence where I really sat there and went, wow. Minimize much. Here it goes. There is no magic bullet for designing websites to accommodate the wide range of vestibular disorders and visual needs. And we are being as thoughtful as possible in our approach and research in order to make the best decisions we can to help the most people. So obviously I was at a loss for words here, and I don't feel like I clearly articulated the problem with this sentence. So accessibility is not easy because there are so many and varied disorders that people can deal with in their life. But the fact of the matter is, websites every day manage to balance the needs of different communities vis-a-vis accessibility. And what is lacking specifically here, but throughout this entire blog post, is any acknowledgement that Ravelry may have made any mistakes or had any shortcomings in planning and rolling out NURAV. There's no acknowledgement of it. There's simply acknowledgement of, yes, we see that some people have a quote-unquote degradation of experience, i.e. are being harmed. We've made some fixes, and yeah, we're gonna keep trying to make some fixes, but we're not exactly sure what those next steps are yet. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself here, so let's go back to quotes. But here's the paragraph that I thought was like a little bizarre. There's still work to be done. Yeah. There's still work to be done, and this is part of the phased approach. We are being deliberate about making real improvements to the accessibility of Ravelry. The goal of this phase was to retain our existing HTML while visually aligning the look of Ravelry with a new design system and new components, which we are writing from scratch with accessibility as a core feature from the start, as one should be doing in 2020. That paragraph is trying to say, no, we take accessibility seriously. Like this is just the first step. We're just presenting a new look. We have this whole new concept that we're bringing together on how to design our website, and we're doing it in a way to take accessibility seriously. That's what that paragraph is trying to communicate. The problem is, they're saying, of course we have to take accessibility seriously in 2020. But they rolled out a new skin for Ravelry that has harmed people, that isn't accessible to people, and their response has been kind of slow. We are currently conducting a readability survey and have sent it to specific groups of Ravelers with different visual needs. When we have more complete data from the readability survey, some of the post-launch changes may be adjusted based on that data. That's something that should have been done before you rolled this out. I mean, if you're having to do a readability survey, as they call it, to address accessibility concerns, because people are having health complications from your website, that tells me that that's something that should have happened already. But hey, I guess better late than never. I just find it hard. I would really like to know. I would like an explanation from Ravelry about why they haven't rolled the website back into the classic mode and taken NURAV offline until they figured it out. They don't address that question in this blog. I'm sure there's a reason why. I just don't know what it is. And I don't want to speculate what it is. I have some theories, but I don't want to speculate about it openly because I just don't know. Me again from the edit. Just want to point out that there are people who have disabilities, sight problems, and have reported that NURAV is an improvement, and probably the better option than taking NURAV offline would be to make classic Ravelry default and make a beta test opt-in for NURAV. But again, for reasons that are unclear, Ravelry has not chosen to go that route. And a quick note, yes, users can toggle the website back into the classic Ravelry skin. That's not what I'm talking about by taking the website back to classic Ravelry. I mean, reinstituting what Ravelry was before NURAV was rolled out. Other news. This is where, to me, this next section to me is where this blog really loses the plot. Let me just read you the first paragraph, because we are excited to welcome a whole new flock of fiber artists to Ravelry. Since we launched our new design, signups have more than doubled over the same period from last year. Correction, we forgot that signups were temporarily closed on June 23rd last year, and factoring that in, the number is a 73% increase in signups. We are also on track to have the busiest pattern sales month of any June ever. We're so happy to see our community supporting Ravelry designers. You have a blog post that you have to put up that needs to address the accessibility issues of the site that you're having. And you're ending it on,
look how much everyone loves our site. Look what this is doing. People are signing up like mad. People are buying more patterns than ever. See, most people are just fine with new Ravelry.
that does not speak to you taking accessibility issues seriously with your site. That's minimizing, in my opinion. I don't know if they were completely shocked and surprised and taken aback by the accessibility concerns that came up and have just been scrambling to figure out a solution. But what I feel like has been communicated to me through this blog post and everything is, again, I feel like they're looking for a quick, easy solution so that everyone will be like, okay, good enough, we're all ready to move on and forget about this accessibility issue. And while that is happening, there are people who are having accessibility issues with Ravelry screaming, you've left us behind. We don't feel welcome anymore. And to me, that's really disappointing for a website that prides itself on being inclusive, because it doesn't seem like Ravelry is being inclusive to the disability community. It doesn't. And I don't think this blog post helps them on that. So what do you think? What do you think about Ravelry? What do you think about their blog post? Do you think that they are responding to these accessibility issues proactively and effectively? Do you think that this is all overblown and you're just waiting for it to blow over? How do you see your relationship with Ravelry moving forward? Do you find yourself kind of going, I don't want to use the website as much as maybe I did in the past? Because I gotta admit, for myself personally, this is just me and my personal choice. I have a hard time supporting Ravelry right now because of this. I just do. I do. I feel like this is a real stain on Ravelry, so. Hey, this is Editing Carrie, and I want to just put in a quick note here that I am disappointed in Ravelry right now, and I'm very sad about this whole situation. But I want to make clear that I am not rooting against Ravelry. I'm rooting for Ravelry. I want Ravelry to fix these problems and succeed and make amends with the communities that they need to make amends with. Because the truth is, Ravelry does hold a unique and important place in the fiber community. If they were not to succeed, it would create a huge void for people. So I don't want to see Ravelry fail. I want to see NURAV and Ravelry succeed. But it can't succeed if we're not honest about the problems and the ableism that they have wrapped themselves up into. So, my hope is that they get the message, they fix the problems, they make amends, and they do better. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If so, please give it a thumbs up and share it with all your knitting friends. Liking videos, sharing with other people. Let's YouTube know that this is a channel worth checking out. If you'd like to reach out to me on social media, you can find all of that down in the description box. If you have not already, please hit subscribe and the notification bell, which will let you know whenever I upload a new video. I hope you have a wonderful day, evening, weekend, weeknight, whenever you may be watching this, and as always, happy health and happy knitting. Bye!